Hello, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic, where we were a bit remiss yesterday because we didn't celebrate International Sudoku Day. The 9th of September, otherwise known as the 9th of the 9th, has that interesting label because I guess a Sudoku, normal Sudoku, is 9 by 9. But on my Facebook feed, Christoph Seeliger posted this puzzle, which he says is a hard killer Sudoku, which didn't make the cut for the upcoming World Sudoku Championship in Germany. You can see, I'll put a link in the description, it's been posted on the Logic Masters Germany website, which is an excellent site for puzzles in general. But I thought we might have a go at the puzzle now. Now, he says it's a hard Sudoku that didn't make the cut. Now, I don't know why it didn't make the cut, whether it's because it's too hard to be a competition puzzle, that's perfectly possible, or whether they just are overburdened with magnificent puzzles. Let's have a look and see how we would solve this one. If you want to have a go, by the way, just click on the link under the video. That'll take you to our software. You'll see exactly what I'm seeing now, and you'll be able to have a go. So, what am I seeing? Well, the first thing I notice is this column, I guess. We know every column in a killer Sudoku, or indeed any Sudoku, will add up to the number 45, because it will contain all of the numbers from 1 to 9 exactly once each. So if I know that all of the yellow squares there add up to 45, 10 plus 13 plus another 10 is 33. So these two cells have got to sum up to 12, which is of no use nor ornament. Okay, well, let's look at something else then. We can look at the geometry of the grid. Do something similar with more columns here. Look at all those cells. All of those cells are completely contained within the cages in the yellow squares. Now, it's a bit more complicated than just one column, but obviously, if one column adds to 45, four complete columns must add up to 180. And therefore, we should be able to isolate the values of a few cells here. So I'm going to add all these up. So 28, 40, 56, 59, 89, 90, 120, 150, 173. So these two squares, therefore, have got to sum up to 7. So if these two add to 7, which isn't very useful, and these two add to 12, these two must add up to 10, because they're obviously part of a cages totaling 29 altogether. So that's not very useful at all. Great. Right. I've still not got any digits in this grid. If I was doing this under championship conditions and I still hadn't got a number in the grid or any handle on how to do it, I would be panicking big time. You can see the grid is very symmetrical. Let's just check here, see if we can get any other good totals out. So we've got 22 plus 13, that's 33, so these add up to 10. Now that's interesting, because that means that there is a parity between these two cells. If these three cells sum to 10, whatever I put in this cell, let's make it a 3, obviously these two cells would therefore sum to 7, and this square would have to be a 3 because it's part of a 10 cage. So these squares are the same number, and that's no use either. Okay, let's check. This is rather worrying. Let's try this one. So 23, 42, that's no use. These add up to 12. This one, 11, 23, 43, 53. This is better. These add up to 8 this time. Still can't do anything with that though. And these 56. So these add up to 11. Wow, okay. So we're running out of tricks here, rather terrifyingly. Okay, right, hang on, there's something else. If you look at this grid, let's look at the perimeter squares. You can see that's quite interesting, isn't it? All of those perimeter squares are completely within cages that don't stick into the middle at all. Now, okay, that is interesting. So I'm wondering now whether we can isolate the value of these 4 squares. And the reason I've picked these 4 squares is that obviously, if I just looked at 2 rows, I would know that these 2 rows added up to 90. So if I look at these squares in the column, which would give me the total of the perimeter, obviously, if I add on to 90 the value of these yellow squares, whatever they happen to be, I would get to the total for the perimeter. But these yellow squares here are effectively just 45 plus 45 is 90 minus the value of these 4 squares, because those are the squares that are missing. So now, let's just do this arithmetic and see whether this comes to a useful total. 40, 50, 70, 87, 210. Ah, yes, 146. Okay, so what is 180 minus 146? It is 34. So these 4 squares add to 34. Now that is massive, because obviously therefore they have to be quite large. If I try and put a 7, for example, in this square, these 3 squares would have to add up to 27. So they would have to each be 9, and obviously that would break the puzzle, give us 9s clashing. So this square is, every square in the perimeter must be bigger than a 9, and that's all we need to know. They must therefore be 8s and 9s, and effectively therefore they form 8-9 pairs in their rows and columns. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? So now, and obviously there's going to be 2 8s and 2 9s in order to not create a clash, and 2 8s are 16, 2 9s are 18, 18 plus 16 is 34, which is the number we were looking for. So now we should be off to the races. Let's have a look at this. It'll still be 8 minutes since we're solved. Oh my god. 23 here. If we put a 9 in this cage, it breaks, because 5 cells, the minimum I can make 5 cells add up to, if all the numbers must be different, is 15. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. But 15 plus 9 is 24. That would break this cage. So this square is an 8, and we get our first digit. Of course, that 8 also unwinds the rest of those 9s and 8s around the edge. So in these squares now, I'm looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. "17 in 3 squares without using an 8 and a 9 must be 4, 6, 7. So this has not got a 4 there. There's a 4 in one of those squares. These 2 squares must be 1, 2, 3, and 5. Oops, as well. I'm just wondering, actually, now we can isolate the value of this square. Let's do that. So if this is a 5 and a 3, that doesn't work. 5 and 3 doesn't work, because that would lead to a repeated 3. We'd have to put a 3 here as well. 5 and 2 does work. That can be a 4. 5 and 1 would give us... no, 5 and 1 doesn't work either. So this can only be 5, 2, 4 if it involves a... no. This can't be 5, 2, 4, because then we can't fill the 12 cage. If I put a 5 in one of those 2 squares, with alongside the 2, this is a 4, and now the 12 cage can't be 3, 9, it can't be 4, 8, and it can't be 5, 7. So in fact there is no 5 in there. So the 5 is in one of these 2 squares in row 9, so it is not there. let's just carry on with this. If this is 3 and 2, this would be a 6. If this is 3 and 1, this would be a 7. And if this is 1 and 2, this would be an 8. That would clash up there. So this is not 1, 2. Right, okay, well that gives us another restriction. So we know there's a 3 in one of these two squares. Therefore, there is not a 3 in one of those two squares. Therefore, there is a 3 in one of those squares. So now we know these three squares do include a 3 and a 4. So I need to put the numbers 5, 6 and 7 into some combination of those squares, because I've not managed to find 5, 6 and 7 in the column yet. Right, okay, look, if I try and make that a 7, it breaks, because then I've got to put the 5 and 6 in the 14 cage, and the other number would be a 3. But I've already done work that's proved there's a 3 in one of these squares. So there is not a 7 here. The 7 is in the 14 cage. Therefore, this square must be a 5 or a 6, because we can't obviously have 5, 6 and 7 in this 14 cage. So, oh no, hang on, look. Is this useful? Yes. No. I need to restrict this more by more. I was thinking we've got 3 and 4 here. So if this is 6, 16. If this is 5 and 9, these two squares have got to add up to 8. But if this is 5 and 9, this 13 cage has to be 6 and 7, because it can't be 5, 8 and it can't be 4, 9. And therefore, this is broken, because if this is a 5, we can't have 5, 3 here, we can't have 7, 6, 2 here, and we can't have 7, 1 here. So that is helpful. So this is not a 5, this is a 6. So the 5 must be in there alongside a 2. And there's no 2 in here, therefore there is a 2 here, therefore there is no 2 there. Therefore, this must be 7. Therefore, there must be a 7 in one of those two squares. Right, these two squares now have got to add up to 7 as well, but without using 1, 6. We don't know a lot about that, but we do know this 13 now must be 5 and 8. Well, that's not a 5. Oh, hang on. So now this isn't 1, 6, it's not 2, 5. So this is 3 and 4. So we've now got, what's this, 16, 24, 36. These two squares have got to add up to 9. They can't be 1, 8, they can't be 3, 6, and they can't be 4, 5. So this is 2 and 7. And that means that this must be 1, 5, and 6, I think. That adds up to 12, so that looks good. Oh, now we can use this column though, maybe. Yes, okay, so we've got these two squares, we said they need to add up to 12. So there can't be a 6 in either of these squares. And this can't be a 1 either, that must be a 5. This is a 7. Neither of those squares can be a 5. Neither of those squares can be a 7. Well, hang on a sec, didn't these two squares need to add up to 10? Because these two squares needed to add up to 7, these added up to 12, 19. Yes, so the only way these two squares can add up to 10 is if this is a 6 and this is a 4, which unwinds those squares as well. Ah, okay, and now this 13 cage is forced because it must contain a 6, and therefore it needs also another 7, which is not going to be 1, 6 and not 2, 5. So this is 3, 4, 6, this central 13 cage. And now this 10 cage can't be 1, 9, it can't be 4, 6, it can't be 3, 7. That's 2, 8, that's 1, 9. We said there was parity between those two numbers. So this is a 7 now, because it can't be a 2, because we've already got the 2 in there. 7. This must be 1 and 2. Therefore, this square down here must be a 5. Oh, 1, 3 here. This is a 2. This 12 cage must be 4 and 8 now. Therefore, what am I looking for in the rest of this? 2, 5 and 6 into the open positions here. Well, these can't be 5 and 6 because that would make that a 0. So this square can't be a 2. If this was 6 and 2, this would be a 3. If this was 5 and 2, this would be a 4. It can't be 4, so this is a 3. This is 2 and 6, therefore. Just trying not to make a mistake here, that would be bad. 2, 6. Well, this 5, look, locks a 5 into this box. It can only go here. These two squares sum to 10. And they can't be 2, 8, 3, 7 or 1, 9. They must be 4 and 6. Well, this isn't a 4. This is a 2 over here. This is an 8. This is a 4. Yeah, that's a 1. That's a 9. That's a 1. 3, 4 here. This is a 3 because we've already got a 4 in the box. Now this must be 7 and 9, so this is a 3. Can't isolate the value of the 9 yet, but these two squares are 2 and 8 to complete the box. Both of which, look at that, they both go into 31 cages. So whichever of these takes the 2, the other 4 digits will have to add to 29, which must be 5, 7, 8, 9. Right, okay. There must be a 9 in this 16 cage because of this 9 down here. So there's no 9 here. Where do we put a 9 along row 2? Well, it must therefore go in the 16 cage. So we're going to need another 7. Can't be 1, 6. Can't be 2, 5, look, because there's a 2 in this box already, and there's a 2 in this box already. So this is 9, 3, 4. No, that's not a 4, that's not a 3. There's a 4 here, look, so there's a 4 in one of those squares. What are the missing digits up here? Is it... it's a 3. There's a 3 there. That's just simple Sudoku. Look, that 3 means this is the only place a 3 can go. So this is a 4, 9 pair. These two squares. 3. This is a 4. Could have put that in before. Apologies. Don't think it's going to be massively helpful. This 3 is pointing up here, so that means that's a 3 and that's a 4. That means that's a 4 and that's a 6. One, 7 and 9 are the open squares in column 8 here. be a 1 in one of these two positions. Sorry about this. I know it's frustrating if you're seeing things on the screen and you're thinking, why hasn't he spotted that yet? But live solving, it's very frustrating when I watch myself back, I have to say, because I normally spot things and I wonder how on earth I've managed not to spot them when I've been doing the solve. Right. That's interesting. If we look along this row, we still need to place, this square can only be a 1, 2, 5 or an 8, because this is a 3, 4, 9 triple, and we've already got a 6 and a 7 as well. So this square is a 1, 2, 5 or 8. Well, it can't be a 2 or an 8 because of the 2 and the 8 here, and it can't be a 5 because there's a 5 there. So that's a 1. That's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 2, that's an 8, that's an 8, that's a 5. Nice. Okay, now this 10 cage, this must be 2 and 3. We know these squares add up to 5, can't use a 1 anymore. There's a 3 over here, so that's a 3 and a 2. These two squares must be 4 and 6. 3. This must be a 3 now in the centre because of these two 3s. Aeroplane going past outside, don't know if you can hear it. 4 and 6 here now. 2, 8, 3, 2. 7, 9. Now, there must be a 5, I think, in one of those two squares. We haven't yet put a 5 anywhere along row 3 of the grid. So yet again, we're left with a 7 number unplaced. We can't use 2, 5 this time. So can we... and we can't use 3, 4 because there's a 3 here and a 3 here. So this 12 cage is 1, 5, 6. There's a 1 there, so that's a 1. There's a 6 in one of these two positions, and we have a 6 down here. So 6, 5 like that, 1, 3 like that. This now can only be a 9. That resolves the 9 and 4 and the 3. This should be a 4, this should be a 6. 9 here now. So down this column we still need 4, 8 and 9. And there's a 9 here that affects both of those squares. So this is a 9. These two squares are 4 and 8. They must be in that order. These two squares should be 5 and 7, I think. Let's put that in. Now, can we do anything with any of this? We can get rid of the 1 from this square. That means this is a 1 because now we've got a 7, 9 pair in column 8. Again, I feel I'm being so slow here. 8. So here we've got 17, 21. These two squares have got to add up to 12. Must be 5 and 7. Don't know the order. But that means this square is a 2 or an 8. And it can't be a 2, so it must be an 8. And that resolves that 8 and the 2 there. We now know these digits down here. They must be 1, 2 and 9. That means this is a 1. This is a 2, 9 pair. This 1 actually resolves everything because now this is part of a 31 cage. So once we have a 1 in, we know the other digits must be 6, 7, 8 and 9. We've already got the 8. This can't possibly be a 2. This must be 6 and 7 into these squares, which must be this way round. That resolves the 7 and 5. That resolves that 7 and 5. That resolves this 5 and 2. That's 9. That's 9. That's 7. This is 2, and if I haven't made a mistake, this is an 8, and what a puzzle that is. Yes. Okay, that's fantastic. I loved that. I would have had serious heebie-jeebies at the start about not getting any numbers, but in the end I managed to find a way through. I hope that was useful to your killer Sudoku. Do let us know in the comments how you found the puzzle, happy International Sudoku Day, just a day late, and we'll be back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.